Hi everybody, welcome to Shivers. So far for the month of March, we've really been talking about just what inspires me and what has really gotten me to the point of where I'm at right now within this horror and metaphysical genre. And so today's not really going to be any different. Last week we talked about music, the week before was all about artistic inspirations. Now I'm going to be talking all about the video games that I grew up with that inspired my love for a lot of these stories and movies and even games that I still talk about today. So all of the games on this list are going to be more under that horror suspense umbrella, so not really having like Fortnite or The Sims included in here, even though I still do play both of those games quite frequently. So, as many of you have heard up until this point, I grew up being afraid of nearly everything. I was so scared of anything under the horror umbrella, except I was always a fan of the paranormal and ghosts. The other thing that I've always had an appreciation for one reason or the other, has been zombies. Zombies really is like the first, I guess you can say, subgenre that I was a big fan of. And I think a lot of that was inspired from video games. I used to play Call of Duty all the time with my brother. And when we lived in Pennsylvania, in my parents' house, the whole basement was built out. So we had our little gaming corner and we would always play Call of Duty, but specifically we would play a lot of Black Ops and Black Ops Zombies. So I think a big reason why zombie games in particular have stuck is because of starting with Black Ops for Zombies. You have even the map of transit that changed everything for games in general, let alone for Call of Duty. So I definitely got to give credit where credit's due for Black Ops Zombies. And even for Black Ops 2, there are a lot of DLC maps that you can get for zombies in particular, and one of them is Alcatraz. So it was really cool last month, a couple months ago, going to California, going to Alcatraz, and like the first thing out of my mind was like, this looks like Call of Duty. So it's funny just how much that stuff influences you on a regular basis. But a couple other nostalgic zombie games that I really want to point out is there's a funky game called Dead Nation. It was only for the PlayStation 3, but it was very arcade style in the way that it was played. It was zoomed up so far away from the characters in the map that it looked like almost like Pac-Man, but you're running away from zombies and trying to shoot them at the same time. So very cartoony, very comic booky, but also fun. You also have Dead Rising. That and Dead Island both have more of a comedy edge to them. So I didn't really get into either of those gaming series too far for the simple fact that it was just a little bit too of that boyish humor comedy for me. But then you start to get into a little bit more serious gameplay with games like Dying Light. Dying Light came out in 2015, and that was really where you started to get a lot of the gore. So before this is more of that, the comedy, the comic book nature, the true like arcade games for zombies. Dying Light, I would go as far as saying, is like the first really aggressive zombie game that you have, let alone first person too. The graphics of Dying Light take it well far above and beyond. And also just the time of play. I'm going to have to look it up, but I do not know how long of that gameplay is for that game for Dying Light, because I have played for years and I have never gotten even close to finishing that game. So you also have a game back in the day in 2013 called State of Decay. Back in the day, I had a boyfriend who had an Xbox 360. I have always been a tried and true PlayStation girl. And so being able to then like sneak a couple Xbox games in was really fun. One of those games was State of Decay. State of Decay was The Walking Dead before The Walking Dead was The Walking Dead. It's a really great, wholesome survival game. You have a great storyline that you get to follow. There's really great character development through it. So it's not just a stupid game. It's not a nonsensical game either. This is really where the storytelling gets into play, and that's where we get into what we love now. So you also do have the Walking Dead game. There's a whole bunch of iterations of the Walking Dead game. Some of them follow the Walking Dead. You play as Daryl, you play as Rick, you have a crossbow, you have all these weapons. But then you also have what's much more famous is the Telltale games of The Walking Dead. And this is really, really a comic book style game. You're also starting to make choices for these characters too. So this is where we get into more of that like Until Dawn territory, which we'll get to in a minute. But yeah, so the Telltale games to me were always a little bit too slow and a little bit too wholesome. When I'm playing a game, I want blood and guts, and I want gore and drama. I don't really want anything wholesome. I want drama. So the Telltale Walking Dead games to me were just a little bit too like a mother is learning how to get into gaming with her teenage son. Like that's kind of the vibe. But after that, I really do think that here's the sort of graduation point of video games. So now you get into games like Days Gone that came out in 2019, but also The Last of Us. I loved The Last of Us. A very big inspiration for the ending of my book, Burn Her Down, was the ending of The Last of Us Part 2. I'm not going to spoil anything because I think that you should still watch it or play it, but the ending of The Last of Us 2, you spend all of these hours with these characters, creating a relationship with them, all to kind of figure out like there is no right or wrong. There is no reason why we root for someone other than right place, right time. So the storytelling for The Last of Us, for The Last of Us Part 2, impeccable. And I have never cried in a video game. And The Last of Us, the original one, just sobbing, absolutely sobbing at the end of this game. So you really can't beat the storytelling for The Last of Us, and the TV show proves it. It's great. And as someone who played and absolutely adores both the games, I did not finish season 2 of The Last of Us for the TV show because I thought that it started getting a little bit too off. But season 1, it's fantastic. You can't really say anything bad about it. But this again is where we start to see storytelling taking a hold of video games, which I love. A lot of people don't love that because it's gaming, we want to play, but I disagree. So now we're getting into also more true horror genre. So up until this point, it has been really solely zombie games. That's it. And a racing game here or there. I also loved Spyro and Crash Bandicoot. So those are mixed in there too, but they're not horror by any stretch. Now, 2014, there's a game called The Evil Within. This is pretty much as far as sci-fi as I'll go, and it's made up because it is a great storytelling game. So I did say with the Telltale for The Walking Dead, it's too wholesome. The storytelling here is a little borderline too wholesome. It's all about this father who's a police officer, FBI agent, sort of, trying to find his daughter. And his daughter was supposedly dead. Now she's not dead. It's very convoluted, very confusing. But it's like right on that border of sci-fi where you have a lot of mystical elements. You have a lot of like memory suppression. You have a lot of experiments going on. So I think with The Evil Within, there's something for everyone. This is also really strategy based. So you got to know what you're doing. You have to collect all of your items. This is also, I would say, probably one of the first games where you're actually like walking around trying to find things. You see that a lot with The Last of Us and everything that followed after that. But you're looking for resources. You're looking for weapons. You're looking for secrets. So all of that wandering around is part of the gameplay, which makes it a little bit slow. But for someone like me who's always looking at details, I like games like this because it's forcing me to go walk around and what's over here, what might be happening. To me, it's almost the same thing as like watching a movie with subtitles. Like you don't have to go do these things, but you might find out a lot of information that you didn't before. So after you have The Evil Within, you also have The Evil Within 2 that comes out in 2017. Both I think are great. And they're not too difficult where it's impossible to finish the game or you just set it down and you never come back to it. and it's short enough where you want to keep it going too. I want to say it's about 16-ish hours of gameplay each, which is it's solid. So you're not getting through that in just one day, but a weekend for sure. So now you also have pure horror. Outlast comes out. In my opinion, Outlast and Resident Evil are the scariest games I have ever played. Outlast, the original, comes out in 2013. Then we have Outlast 2, Outlast Whistleblower, and more recently, the Outlast Trials. So the Outlast Trials are a really cool opportunity to play a very scary game with your friends online, which is always fun. Very much in the strategy. You have to hide, you have to find things, you have to solve puzzles. So there's a lot of attention needed for Outlast Trials and just all of the Outlast games in general. The thing that I hate about Outlast, all of them, is they're really scary. And not only are you watching this whole thing pretty much through a VHS tape, but then you also have to find batteries and make sure that everything is able to be seen, or you're going to be walking in the dark. Nothing is going to go right. It's horrible. And the actual storytelling of the Outlast games are also really grotesque. And I said I wanted gore, I want the drama. You got it in these. It's, I would say for the average everyday person, it's too much. But for a horror fan, Outlast is going to test your limits. And for an adrenaline junkie, I think that you really would get your fix by playing these games. So after Outlast, we have a game called Madison. Madison comes out in 2022, so pretty later than everything else. This is on many lists voted to be the scariest game ever made. I don't think it's as scary as Outlast because you don't have all that pressure. Madison is a storytelling game. You're following a story. There's nothing outside of yourself that you have to do in this game either. So you're not wandering around multiple locations trying to figure out what's going on. It's just you. And we are trying to figure out really the puzzle of the game, but outside of that, we're not solving anything. We're just following a story. And the story for Madison is terrifying. So I would say if you're a horror movie fan, you're going to really like Madison. If you're a horror gaming fan, maybe not, because I think it's a little bit slower in terms of pacing than a lot of other ones that are on this list. A unique bunch of games are from a group called Emeka Games. There's Summer of 58, Father's Day, and Find Yourself. They have a couple other games as well, but I haven't played those. I'm not really a big PC gamer. Like I said before, I'm a PlayStation person, PlayStation girl all the way through. But these games have just such amazing stories and horror stories that I have always suggested them. So Find Yourself and Father's Day tie together with their storytelling. Summer of 58 is separate, but you still have Easter eggs in both games, which I love as well. They're really scary. They are jump scares, but it's not as unbearable as Outlast, I think. And the storytelling itself absolutely keeps you captured. It's not too much waiting around for what's going to happen next or what's going to be revealed. The pacing is there. And the details and the Easter eggs just in the background in general from observation, not even that you're walking around to collect them, is 10 out of 10. So after that, you have a game called Alan Wake. The original came out in 2010, and the follow-up came out in 2023. So 13 years to get Alan Wake 2. I have been talking about Alan Wake 2 for months now. I think it's incredible. I think it's a perfect example of how to blend phenomenal storytelling with movies and with gaming. I've always said that Ready Player One is my number one favorite movie. This is like Ready Player One, but for games. It's doing the exact opposite in just the best way. So even Alan Wake 1 and Alan Wake 2 have a 9 out of 10 rating on Steam, which is incredibly high. It's like these games are amazing. So I think the storytelling for Alan Wake as well is a little bit fantastical, but for Alan Wake 2, it's just been so on point with not even just like the horror side of it, but also the metaphysical side of it. It's so cool how it blends different genres, and the effects themselves are amazing as well. So a couple others to mention, we have the Silent Hill group of games. The original Silent Hill game came out in 1999, and we're still having a whole bunch of new ones. So after 1999, we have Silent Hill 2, Silent Hill Ascension, Silent Hill 3, 4, Origins, The Escape, Homecoming, Downpour. Downpour is one of the most confusing games that I've ever played. You're walking through so much fog and rain and mess. You barely ever know where you're going. I've never finished that game. After that, you have PT. PT deserves a top #1 spot on everybody's shelf of amazing horror games. Everything has been copied and replicated from PT since it came out in 2014. This was a teaser of a game that never was released, and that teaser has been the most played demo of any game of all time. I sometimes add that in as a trivia question. But PT's just, I mean, I've never met anybody who didn't love it, didn't love watching streamers play it, didn't love playing it themselves. PT's incredible. And I have, so much respect. After PT, we have the remake of Silent Hill 2 that came out in 2024. Last year, we had Silent Hill F, and then upcoming this year, we have Silent Hill Townfall. Silent Hill is scary. Silent Hill is a doable game. Silent Hill is fun, but it's not a whole bunch to like ride home about. I just have respect for the whole series as a whole, and of course PT. You also then, as I mentioned before, have all the Resident Evil games. Resident Evil 8 is one of the highest grossing games that has ever been made. That came out in 2022. You also have a game called Resident Evil Requiem that is supposed to be coming out this year. Silent Hill 7 is also one of the highest rated scary games in terms of fear factor, and I would second that. I would say besides the Outlast games, that's what I was talking about, was Resident Evil 7. It is so scary with all the jump scares, and just trying to run away from Grandpa is damn near impossible. So definitely adrenaline junkie's dream. Go play Resident Evil games. A couple of more sci-fi games to mention. We have Amnesia, Soma, Dead Space. Last year, have a game called Karma that came out in 2025. I was very interested to see how this would compare to the whole genre. We Happy Few came out, and I want to say probably 2015, and I had such high expectations for that game, and they fell through. That game is not great storytelling and not great gameplay, but with this one for Karma, I think what was advertised was similar to We Happy Few, but they did follow through. So it was still a little too sci-fi for me, but another game that made me cry at the end with its storytelling. And it's very linear, so you're just one person the whole time. You're just trying to figure out what's going on with them and their surroundings. But you have puzzles, you have some strategy, and it's not terribly confusing. So I really liked Karma. I was very pleasantly surprised as well. A couple of other games that you can play with your friends include Dead by Daylight. I have been playing Dead by Daylight from the beginning, but I never realized how serious people really take it until I have a game night. So once a month we play games on PlayStation, and last month was the first time in quite a while that I chose Dead by Daylight. So a couple people from the Shivers Discord all joined, and they're like, what's going to be your collective? I'm using this thing. All of these things are supposed to be working together for this specific character. I have not been playing like that. So I used to say for the longest time that Dead by Daylight was probably my favorite game because I play it the most. But after that last game night that we had, I even told them, like, since I've been playing from the beginning, I have never played like this. So Dead by Daylight is for your true gamers, your board game gamers. We also used to have Friday the 13th. Those servers got shut down, I think, about last year. We have Texas Chainsaw that is still online. And then this year is supposed to be an upcoming Halloween movie game. And that's going to be kind of Dead by Daylight style where you can play with your friends and there's a killer, but we're not exactly sure. So to be determined there. The only other games to mention on this all-time video game horror list are the supermassive games. So pretty much once a year I break down all of the supermassive games because I am just such a big fan of them. I guess consider this the breakdown, but Supermassive Games has an office in Cary, which I think is really cool, but other than that, they're headquartered in Paris. These are all of those choose your own adventure games. So you're following it like you're watching a movie, but you're making decisions for the characters. So everything is a butterfly effect. Every decision impacts something else later down the line. Everything you find changes the story. There's so much detail and everything is thought out. And I love these games. I always talk about them. I can't stop talking about them. So to kind of go in order, what we have first is Until Dawn. So Until Dawn is a PlayStation only game. It came out in 2015. This is a big reason why I got a PlayStation 4 in the first place. So Until Dawn has just recently been made into a movie, a horrible movie. Don't watch it. But this is a whole group of friends that are going to this cabin a year after their other two friends went missing there. And we are going to figure out what's going on in these woods while we're staying here. So each of these characters is met with a Wendigo. And now we have folklore elements, we have supernatural elements, but it's also still that slasher as well. It's just great. After that, we have Until Dawn, Rush of Blood. This is a VR game that came out in 2016. And The Inpatient, another VR one that came out in 2018. You have a game called Hidden Agenda that came out in 2017. This was a PlayStation party game. Didn't really pop off the way that they expected it to, but it's an app that you can download on your phone so that you can answer questions, you can vote on majority rules of what decision is going to be had in this game. But Hidden Agenda itself is all about this man's last couple of moments before he's about to be hanged from being on death row, and he's innocent. We have a couple of hours to prove who actually committed this crime. So very cop and crime oriented, but different and pretty fun. Then we have Man of Medan that came out in 2019. This is starring Shawn Ashmore. He was in X-Men. He's in a whole bunch of movies. But it's cool that they have like actual legit actors that are in these games. Man of Medan is not necessarily my favorite of the Supermassive games. It's all taking place on a boat. And then all of these other pirate things start happening. It's a little too sci-fi for me. But after Man of Medan, we have Little Hope that came out in 2020 starring Will Poulter. He's the kid from We're the Millers. I love Little Hope. This is all focused on kind of like the Salem witch trials area. After that, we have House of Ashes in 2021 starring Ashley Tisdale. Also not necessarily my favorite. I think the storytelling for this one falls a little weak, but it's different. We're in the Middle East and we're kind of trapped in these like mummy tombs. So we're seeing these alien demon things. It's a little all over the place, but it's unique. After House of Ashes, we have The Quarry that came out in 2022. This does have David Arquette, Brenda Song, Ariel Winters. There's so many stars in this one. Quarry is absolutely my favorite game. it's a summertime slasher and you are the star of it and you're part of deciding what's going to happen with these kids at camp. I love the Quarry. I play it every year. I stream it every year. It's going to be up in June. We're going to play it again forever. After we have the Quarry, then we have The Devil in Me. This comes out in 2022. This is starring Jessie Buckley, who just won an Oscar. And The Devil in Me is all focused on the H.H. Holmes murder hotel, The Devil in the White City. This is pretty cool and probably my second favorite of the Supermassive games. It's really cool that what they do with the mannequins, what they do almost like in And Then There Were None style of knocking everybody off. It's great. After The Devil in Me, we have the casting of Frank Stone in 2024. This ties in with Dead by Daylight, which is great. Love cross-functionality, love the Easter eggs in both of them. I think the casting of Frank Stone could have been a little bit better, and it's really short. It's only about 5 hours of gameplay, so it's really not that long, but it's good for what they made. Then we have what was supposed to come out last year is now supposed to come out this summer, Directive 8020. This is going to be more focused in space, but it's still supposed to be choose your own adventure, still the same style. I'm interested to see what they're going to do with it. I don't really have very high expectations, but we'll see. And then they also are the creators of Little Nightmares 1, 2, and 3. Little Nightmares 3 came out in 2025. Not a huge fan of Little Nightmares, but a lot of people are. So I'll add it to the list regardless. So that concludes the whole list of, I would say, relevant horror video games to me. Let me know, any of you, what are some of your old school, new school favorite games to play, horror or otherwise? Thanks as always for your support. We'll see you next week.